Hello students, welcome to session 9 of electrochemistry in which we are solving a numerical exercise based on Faraday's laws of electrolysis. Okay, starting off with the first question. For aqueous silver nitrate solution, 10,000 coulombs of electricity is passed, 10,000 coulombs of charge is passed. Then what is the weight of silver deposited is the question asked. If you recollect the derivations we made when I was teaching you quantitative aspects of electrolysis in the last class, you can easily remember that 1 Faraday, that is 96,500 coulombs, deposits or liberates E grams of a substance where E is the equivalent mass of the substance. Where E is the equivalent mass of the substance. Now, atomic mass of silver is 108 and in silver nitrate, its valency is 1. It is showing a charge plus 1. So, its valency is 1, atomic mass is 108, so equivalent mass will be 108 divided by 1, that is equal to 108 only. Now, 96,500 coulombs deposits 108 grams of silver. This is what we have established in the last session. Now, without solving it any further, can we tell the answer? Look at the options. 123 grams, 20.2 grams, 11.2 grams and 72 grams. Options are quite far away from each other, number one. And number two, how you save time in entrances using options. As I told in one of the previous sessions also, entrance questions are easier if you could get hints from the options from the conceptual knowledge of subject that you have. Same way here. 96,500 is very close to 1 lakh, as you can understand. So 1 lakh coulombs is depositing 108 grams, means approximately 1 lakh coulombs. Then 10,000 coulombs is 1/10 of it. So the weight deposited must be 1/10 of 108, which must be close to 10.8. Which option is closest to 10.8 here? That simple it is. So answer must be 11.19. However, if you want proper answer to be explained, here it is. 1 Faraday is depositing 108 grams, that is 96,500 coulombs. Therefore, 10,000 coulombs deposit. 108 by 96,500 into 10,000. Simplified sincerely, even then you get 11.19. So, grams. So, please understand, utilize the options well so that you will be able to save a lot of time in your entrances. Moving on to second question. Mass of oxygen liberated from 1,20,000 coulombs. Absolutely similar question. Now, what we need to know is the equivalent mass of oxygen. What is atomic mass of oxygen? You are right, 16. Atomic mass of oxygen is 16 and its valency is 2. Oxygen is a 16th group element. It exists as oxide ion O-2, so its valency is 2. Atomic mass 16, valency is 2, divide 16 by 2, you get 8. So, equivalent mass of oxygen will be 16 by 2, that is 8. Now, without any further solving, will we be able to answer this question? Yes. 96,500 coulombs, as I told you previously, round it off to 1 lakh. Just for approximation, because options you see, one is close to 10, one is 222, one is 172, one is 193, not even close to each other. Take the advantage of it. So, 1 lakh coulombs can deposit 8 grams. Because we know 96,500 coulombs can deposit 8 grams. So, 1 lakh coulombs can deposit approximately 1 lakh coulombs can deposit 8 grams. Then, 1,20,000, slightly more than 1 lakh. So, it must be slightly more than 8 grams. Which option do you have slightly more than 8 grams? That's it. However, let me solve it for you. 96,500 coulombs liberates, because oxygen is a gas, I use the word liberates. 96,500 coulombs liberates 8 grams of oxygen. Therefore, 1,20,000 coulombs liberates 8 by 96,500 into 1,20,000. Simplify it, you will end up getting 9.95 grams of oxygen only. Is that clear? So these two were the problems in which the charge passed is given and the mass of the substance is asked. Let us see how is the next problem. Okay. In the third problem, if you observe, it contained two smaller problems again. Previously, we calculated the mass when the charge supplied is given. Now, he is giving the quantity of the substance and he is asking the charge required for that reaction to happen. Now, the first one out of the two problems, 1 mole of water has to become oxygen. For that, how much of charge is required? Second question was 1 mole of ferrous oxide to become ferric oxide, how much charge is required? This is the question. Now please understand. Again, utilize the options. See, if you notice, in none of the four options, means how you save your time in entrances. I'll be solving both for you, but I'm trying to explain you how to save time in entrances. In none of the four options, any one of the answers is same. Like for first question, all the four options are different. For second question also, all the four options are different. So please understand, when you are in entrance and you are seeing such options, you need not solve both the problems. It is enough if you solve one. That's why last time I gave you a tip and warned you, always start solving the problem after reading the options, after observing and analyzing the options and making some conclusions in mind. So that way I am telling you, it is enough if you solve any one of the problems. I will solve the second one. I will tell you why. See, ferrous oxide to become ferric oxide, balancing is fine, overall reaction is fine. But as ferrous, it has got +2 charge. As ferric, it has got +3 charge. Means for each iron atom to oxidize, it takes only 1 electron. So in this case, the number of electrons involved or the valency is 1. The number of electrons involved is 1. So 1 mole ferrous oxide needs 1 mole electrons, which is 1 farad. Simple. 1 mole ferrous oxide to oxidize needs 1 mole of electrons, and you know charge on 1 mole of electrons is nothing but 1 Faraday. Now, how many options do you have answer close to 1 Faraday? I told you last time, 96,500 is a rounded off value of Faraday. So 96,487 is Faraday. So 1 mole ferrous oxide requires 1 Faraday for oxidation, and that is there in option 2. That should have been your answer. Okay. Now we got the answer. However, we'll solve the first question also. See, water, as I explained you when I was explaining you product formation during electrolysis, water to undergo oxidation and form oxygen, and of course H plus ions as the byproducts, oxygen is changing from -2 to 0. Okay, and then in order to balance, you will have to put 2 here, you will have to put 4 here. Each oxygen changing from -2 to 0, so 2 oxygens changing from totally by 4 units. That's why the number of electrons lost are 4. But please understand, 2 moles of water is losing 4 electrons. So 2 moles of water to oxidize, you need 4 moles of electrons. That means 4 Faraday. Therefore, each mole requires 2 Faraday. Mention that. 2 mole water needs 4 Faraday for oxidation. Therefore, 1 mole needs 2 Faraday. That is 2 into 96,500 coulombs. Of course, here instead of taking a rounded off value, he has taken probably 96,487. That's why you have this value, which will be closer to 2 into 96,500. Multiply it, you will understand it. Okay. So this is a problem in which charge supplied is given. The quantity of substance is given, charge supplied is asked. Let us move on to the fourth problem. Now if you move on to fourth question, Again, charge required is asked by giving quantities of the substances to be deposited. You need to deposit 20 grams of calcium from molten calcium chloride. How many Faraday will be required? Not in terms of coulombs, but in terms of Faraday he is asking you. 40 grams of aluminium has to be deposited from molten alumina. Aluminium trioxide is otherwise called alumina. So 40 grams of aluminum to be deposited from molten alumina. How much charge required? Again, as I told you, for both questions, none of the options are similar, same. That's why it is enough if you solve one, you got your answer. Let us see. I would like to solve the first one now. Observe here. What is the valency of calcium in calcium chloride? Of course, it is +2. It is an alkaline earth metal. Their charges are, oxidation states are +2. Now, its valency is 2. It takes 2 electrons to become calcium metal. And then its atomic mass is 4. So, equivalent mass of atomic mass is 40. I'm sorry. So, equivalent mass will be 40 by 2, that is 20. Which means that 1 Faraday deposits 20 grams of calcium. 1 Faraday deposits 20 grams of calcium. Got it or not? He is asking 20 grams only. So the answer for first question is 1 Faraday. In how many options do you have 1 Faraday? Only one option, that is option A. So that's your answer. However, let me solve the second question also for you. So alumina in Al2O3, oxygen has a charge -2. So obviously aluminum should have +3, of course. Aluminum exhibits only one oxidation state, that is +3. So aluminum valency is 3 and its atomic mass is 27. That's why its equivalent mass will be 27 by 3, that is 9. So you know 9 grams of aluminum is deposited by 1 Faraday. Therefore, given quantity is 40 grams. 40 grams of aluminum deposited by 1 by 9 into 40. You can cross check. Okay? So, accordingly, you get your answer. Right? So, it's going to be 4.44 Faraday. So, problem number 3 and 4. Quantities of substances are given, charges are asked, and we have solved them accordingly. And in every question, please observe, I am telling you how to minimize your time in entrances. If the same question is coming in board exam, fine, you will have to write all the steps in detail. Whereas when it is coming in entrances, how to minimize your time and save your time. I have given you tips. Please implement them when you are solving an MCQ test. Okay. Let us proceed to question number 5. In question number 5, acidylated water, electrolysis of acidylated water he is talking about. 20 amperes of current is passed for 1.5 hours. Then how much of, what mass of oxygen will be liberated at anode? You know very well, oxygen is formed at anode. So what mass of oxygen will be liberated at anode is the question. Now, there are two ways of solving this question. One, using unitary method. If this much for this much, how much for this much? Or two, directly using the formula of Faraday's first law. W is equal to ZIT. Let us do both the methods for this problem. For the rest of the problems, I will go by one method. You can you can follow whichever the method comfortable for you. Okay. So observe here. First, you have got current and time. Now, for calculating by unitary method, what we need is charge. We know very well that 96,500 coulombs of charge will liberate exactly equivalent mass of that element. Already just now in the previous problem I have written the equation or reaction related to oxidation of water, and it is involving 4 electrons. Oxidation is involving 4 electrons, but for 2 moles. That's why for each mole it is 2 electrons. That means here valency is 2, so the equivalent mass of oxygen is 8. So 96,500 coulombs liberates 8 grams, that we have already established. Now comes the question. For those 8 grams to be liberated, how many 96,500 coulombs required, but how many coulombs are given here? If we know, we can easily calculate. For that, first let us calculate the charge. Charge is Q is equal to I into T. you know very well. And current is given 20 amperes in time. Time should always be taken in seconds because second is the SI unit of time. That's why time should always be taken in seconds. Here it is given in hours. So 1.5 into 60 into 60. 1.5 into 60 into 60. These many coulombs of charge we have. Now calculation is simple. 96,500 coulombs liberates 8 grams of oxygen during electrolysis of acidilated water. Therefore, if I call it this X coulombs here, then X coulombs liberates. You know, 8 by 96,500 into X, I am just putting the value of X here, into 20 into 1.5 into 60 into 60. You simplify and see what answer you are going to get. You will end up getting 8.953. Okay. The other method of solving it, here what we did, we knew that 96,500 coulombs liberates 8 grams because 8 is the equivalent mass of oxygen. Now, we calculated how many coulombs of charge is given in terms of multiplying current and time, and we solved it. Now, using Faraday's first law directly. The formula of Faraday's first law in terms of current and time is W is equal to ZIT, where Z is electrochemical equivalence, which is equal to equivalent mass by 96,500. Let me substitute that. So equivalent mass by 96,500 into I into T. Direct substitution. Now we know equivalent mass is 8. So weight of oxygen liberated is equal to 8 into 20 into time is 1.5 into 60 into 60 divided by 96,500. Both are one and the same. Here we are solving it in 2 steps and using unitary method. Here we are using the formula and directly substituting, whichever is convenient for you. Okay, that is problem number 5, in which current and time are given, quantity of substance is asked. In 6th problem, solution of nickel nitrate is given, and similar to 5th problem, current and time are given, quantity of the substance deposited is asked. Absolutely similar approach. Either first calculate the charge by Q is equal to I into T and then find out for 96,500 coulombs how much will be deposited. So given number of coulombs how much is deposited. Okay. Or W is equal to E by 96,500 into I into T. Now, main task here is to find out equivalent mass of nickel, because unless that is found out, problem cannot be solved. Now you know nickel nitrate, if nickel nitrate ionizes, it ionizes as Ni2 plus 2NO3 minus 1. Nitrate ion valency is 1. That's why nickel must have had the valency 2 here. This we should know by our fundamental knowledge of chemistry. Now, nickel is in its plus 2 oxidation state, so it needs to gain 2 electrons to become neutral nickel. That's why valency in this case is 2. So equivalent mass is equal to, equivalent mass of nickel is equal to, atomic mass is given as 58.7. So equivalent mass will be 58.7 by 2. Let us keep it, we can simplify it later. Now, you can understand Q is equal to IT, that is 5 amperes into 20 into 60, because time is given in minutes, I have multiplied by 60. You can clearly see 25 is 100, 100 into 6. 6,000 coulombs are given to you. 6,000 coulombs are given to you. Now, 96,500 coulombs deposits 58.7 by 2 grams of nickel. Therefore, 6,000 coulombs deposits 58.7 by 2 divided by 96,500 into 6,000. Do the simplification, you will end up getting 1.825 grams is the answer. Even while doing the simplification also, please keep observing the options and understand after you simplifying to some extent which answer or which value it is going to be nearest to. That's all. Don't keep solving every bit of it. Get the final answer and look into the options. Don't do that and waste your time. Okay. Moving ahead to question number 7. Question number 7, if you notice, the reaction, the electrode reaction he is talking about is dichromate becoming chromic sulfate. Potassium dichromate becoming chromic sulfate. He has not given the reaction in the question because we are expected to know this reaction from redox reactions of our first year. Okay. Now current passed is 5 amperes. 5 amperes of current, in order to reduce 0.5 moles of potassium dichromate, would take how much time? So here current is given, quantity of substance is given, time is asked. Okay. Now we must know the proper reduction reaction. You know very well potassium dichromate acts as an oxidizing agent. That means undergoes reduction only in acidic conditions. So acidified potassium dichromate becoming chromic sulfate. This is what he is talking about. Now acidified potassium dichromate becoming chromic sulfate. To balance this equation, first thing we need to do is the atom showing the change in oxidation state must be equal on both sides. So let me put 2 chromium here. Let me see what is the change in oxidation state. 7 into 2 is minus 14. 7 into minus 2. Minus 14 plus 2 is plus 12. 2 chromium should have, minus 12. 2 chromium should have plus 12. So each chromium has plus 6. From plus 6 it has changed to plus 3. That means 3 units. Now please understand, in each mole of dichromate there are 2 chromium atoms. 2 moles of chromium atoms. In each mole of dichromate there are 2 moles of chromium atoms. Each chromium atom decreasing by 3 units. So 2 chromium atoms should decrease by 6 units. So the number of electrons gained here will be 6. Now for further balancing you will have to put 7H2O here and there are 14 hydrogens, so 14H plus here. You know oxygens are balanced using water molecules and in acidic medium hydrogens are balanced using H plus ions. Now further proceeding, you can clearly understand that each Faraday, for each mole of it to reduce, 6 moles of electrons are required. 6 moles means how many Faraday? 6 Faraday, because 1 mole of electron is 1 Faraday. 6 moles of electrons must be 6 Faraday. So you can understand each mole of dichromate requires 6 Faraday. So half mole of dichromate would require 3 Faraday. Let us write that. 1 mole dichromate needs 6 Faraday. Therefore, 0.5 moles needs 3 Faraday. So the amount of charge required is 3 Faraday, which I can write it as 3 into 96,500 coulombs. Now we have established the amount of charge required. Now I want current is given to me, I want time. Now you know very well Q is equal to I into T. So T is equal to Q by I. Charge required we have established that it is 3 into 96,500 coulombs divided by current given is 5 amperes. Simplify it, you will get the time in seconds. In entrance examinations, be careful. Sometimes examiner mentions time in other units also. You will have to divide it accordingly by 60 or 3600, whatever it takes. In this problem, the options are, forgot to write the options. In this problem, the options are given in seconds only. So no issue, no conversion required. So simplify this and look at your answer. Okay. You will end up getting 57,900 seconds. Okay. That is problem number 7, in which quantity of substance and current are given, time required is asked. Question number 8 is also based on the time required. Understood. But Instead of directly asking, I mean giving the quantity of substance and asking the time required by giving the current and charge, he has indirectly asked this question. That's all. Let us understand the context of the question. A metal surface has to be coated with silver. Now, we electrolyze silver nitrate solution. When we electrolyze silver nitrate solution and take this metal which has to be coated as cathode, for example, then what happens? From solution, the silver cations get reduced at cathode and deposit on the surface of this metal, and that gets coated with silver. That's how, you would have followed, you would have seen in the market the 1 gram gold, like that, or the articles being coated with some precious metals and all. The coating is called electroplating. So this is a question in the context of electroplating. So a metal taken as cathode and silver nitrate solution is taken as electrolyte. From silver nitrate solution, the silver ions get reduced and deposit on the surface of this metal, and that's how metal gets coated on, silver gets coated on the surface of this metal. Now the question is, how much of silver is required if he has given directly? I mean, if he has given quantity of silver required, we can easily calculate the time, because we know very well 96,500 coulombs deposits 108 grams. So from that, for depositing so much quantity, how many coulombs are required? And for so many coulombs for 3 amperes current, how much time will be needed? That was easy. But here he has given other details of the metal. Now, from the dimensions of the metal he has given, we need to find the mass of silver first. From dimensions of the metal given, if we find the mass of silver, rest of it will be the problems, conventional problems similar to what we have solved so far. Now, how do you find the mass of silver? See, let us calculate the volume to be deposited. See here, surface area is 80 centimeters square. Volume will be area into thickness, of course. So, area is 80 centimeters square. Thickness is given in millimeters. Further, we need to convert to centimeter to get the value in centimeter cube, because the density also is given in grams per centimeter cube. Right? Now, 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters. So, 1 millimeter is 1 by 10 centimeter. So, further divide by this thing 10, then you will get 0.0005 centimeters. So, I can say 80 into 5 into 10 power minus 4 centimeter cube. 80 into 5 into 10 power minus 4 centimeter cube. Let us keep it like this. Now, the mass of silver required. Volume of metal to be deposited we got. Now mass of silver required. To get the mass of silver, he has given you density of silver. Now you know the volume to which it has to be deposited. You know very well density is equal to mass by volume. So mass will be equal to volume into density. So volume you have established 80 into 5 into 10 power minus 4 into density is 10.5 grams per centimeter cube. Centimeter cube gets cancelled. You are getting grams. Okay. So mass of silver required we have understood. Now what do we need? The charge required. So second step here is charge required for depositing so much mass. So 96,500 coulombs deposits how much of silver? 108 grams, because its valency is 108 by 1. Therefore, so for depositing 108 grams you need 96,500 coulombs. Therefore, for depositing 80 into 5 into 10 power minus 4 into 10.5 grams, how many coulombs are required? You understand? So 96,500 divided by 108 into this whole value. 80 into 5 into 10.5 into 10 power minus 4. That gives you the charge required in coulombs. Now last, Q is equal to IT, so T is equal to Q by I. So simple. You calculated the charge here, you are finding out the time now. Simplification is left to you. Okay, and if you solve it, you will end up getting 12:51 seconds. And again, see, don't struggle too much to calculate accurately because options are quite far away from each other. See, this is 3600, this is almost double of it, and this is almost 10 times of this, and this is less than half of it. So since options are quite far away, if I were given a chance, I'll calculate like this. See, 5 into 8 you can do easily. 10.5 I'll take it as 11 or 10 to make it quite easier, and then simplify accordingly. Here also 108 I'll take it as 110 or even 100. Take 100 here, take 10 here, simplify, you will see what you will get. Take 1 lakh for this. Even then you will get only one answer because you will understand answer you get will be closest to this. So minimize your time by rounding off after examining that options are far away from each other. Okay, move on to, once I'll quickly revise this question. See, there was a metal on the surface of which from silver nitrate solution through reduction silver had to be deposited. Now he has given dimensions of the metal, surface area and thickness, and he has given density of silver. Now from the dimensions, area and thickness, we have calculated the volume of the metal to be deposited. So that is nothing but the volume of silver required. Then he has given density of silver. Using density and volume required, we have calculated mass of silver required. Now we know the quantity of silver required. Now to deposit that much quantity, how many coulombs needed is the second problem. Now 108 grams requires 96,500 coulombs to deposit. So many grams requires how many coulombs to deposit. That we have identified. After finding out the charge required, you know very well charge is equal to current into time. So time is equal to charge by current. Substitute, get your answer. Okay. Move on to question number 9. Now, question number 9. The volume of chlorine liberated at STP is asked. Current and time given for molten sodium chloride. We have studied during product formation that during molten sodium chloride electrolysis, sodium deposited at cathode, chlorine liberated at anode, and he is asking you the volume of chlorine liberated at STP. Current and time are given. Again, first find the charge. Q is equal to I into T, that is 10 into 100, that is 1000 coulombs. So he has supplied 1000 coulomb charge and asking us what volume of chlorine liberated at STP. So I would write 96,500 coulombs liberates 11,200 milliliters. Because he needs answer in milliliters, I am taking in milliliters only. So 96,500 coulombs liberates 11,200 milliliters of chlorine at STP. While explaining the product formation during electrolysis, I have already explained you this. But let me quickly repeat it. See, chlorine oxidizes as Cl minus giving rise to Cl2 with 2 electrons. Now please understand, valency is the number of electrons lost or gained per atom of that species, not 2 or 3 atoms together. So each chloride losing 2 electrons, two chlorides losing 2 electrons, so each chloride loses only 1 electron. So 96,500 coulombs liberates 11,200 ml because each chloride is losing only 1 electron. That means valency is 1. So equivalent mass of chlorine is going to be 35.5 only. Now you know very well 71 grams of chlorine at STP occupies 22.4 liters. So 35.5 grams of chlorine at STP occupies 11.2 liters. So 35.5 grams is nothing but 11.2 liters. Therefore 96,500 coulombs liberates 11,200 ml of chlorine. Now we have established this. Now we know there is 1000 coulombs. If 96,500 coulombs liberates so much, 1000 coulombs liberates how much? 11,200 by 96,500 into 1000. Simplify that, get your answer, you will end up getting 116 ml. Okay, that is volume of gases liberated at STP for the given quantity of electricity. Let's move on to question number 10. 10th one is an entirely different approach and a good question, standard entrance question, where they have given you current passed for how much time, and both of them could successfully deposit how much mass. So mass, current, time, everything is given, but we don't know which metal is that. Its atomic mass is given, means the name of the metal is not mentioned so that we will not get any hints on its valencies and all. Atomic mass is given. Now he is asking you charge on the cation of that metal, means he is asking you valency indirectly. Is that clear? Now logic is simple. Which part of our total discussion of electrolysis or Faraday's laws of electrolysis involves valency? Yes, it is equivalent mass. You know very well atomic mass is equivalent mass is equal to atomic mass divided by valency. Therefore, valency will be equal to atomic mass divided by equivalent mass. So simple. So now if you could identify the equivalent mass of this substance, this element, which metal he is saying, if you could identify equivalent mass, divide its equivalent mass by atomic mass and then get it. Now common sense. How do we get equivalent mass from our principles of electrolysis? You know very well that quantity of metal deposited by exactly 96,500 coulombs will be its equivalent mass. I repeat, the quantity of metal deposited by 96,500 coulombs of charge will be its equivalent mass, right? So let us do it now. First, find out charge. Q is equal to IT, that is 4 amperes into 45 into 60, because the time is given in minutes, I am converting it into seconds. Now, you know very well, I mean that will be so many coulombs, whatever the answer you are going to get. Now, finding equivalent mass. How to find equivalent mass is 4 into 45 into 60 coulombs deposited 2.977 grams. See, for all your requirements, happily you can round it off to 3 for entrances. I am just keeping the original value here. During simplification we can do it. So many coulombs deposits so many grams. Therefore, 96,500 coulombs deposits how many grams? Because that quantity of the metal deposited by 96,500 coulombs will be its equivalent mass, right? So he has given the number of coulombs passed and he has given the mass deposited because of these many coulombs. So from this information, I am calculating the mass deposited by 96,500 coulombs, which will be equal to its equivalent mass. So 2.977 divided by 4 into 45 into 60 into 96,500. Whatever you get will be its equivalent mass. Simplify and get the number of grams there. Then number 3, after simplifying that, now you are left with valency or charge. As I told you already, valency is atomic mass. So atomic mass by equivalent mass. So 106.4 by, you put whatever the value you are getting here, you will get the valency. Simplify and check your answer. Okay. So we found out the charge that is coming from given amount of current and time. Then he has already given that much charge as deposited how much mass. So we identified so many coulombs depositing so much mass. So 96,500 coulombs would deposit how much mass, because that mass would be the equivalent mass. Then we divided the atomic mass by equivalent mass to get the valency or charge on the cation. That is Problem number 10, more familiar in entrances, more familiar pattern of asking questions in entrances. 11th question is a very simple single step problem. Let us not take more than a minute to do it, and it is based on Faraday's second law of electrolysis. Same quantity of electricity is passed through aqueous solutions of copper sulfate and silver nitrate connected in series. And the weight of copper deposited was 3.2 grams. Then what is the weight of silver deposited? This is the question. And according to Faraday's second law of electrolysis, you know very well that ratio of masses of elements deposited at respective electrodes, if two solutions are connected in series and same quantity of electricity is passed, is equal to the ratio of their equivalent masses. Now, copper in copper sulfate exists as 2 plus, so it needs to gain 2 electrons to become copper, so valency is 2, so equivalent mass will be, atomic mass 64 by 2 will be 32. Okay, similarly, silver in silver nitrate exists as Ag plus 1, we have solved it many times so far, so gains 1 electron, that's why its equivalent mass will be its atomic mass by 1, that is 108. So, weight of copper by weight of silver is equal to the ratio 32 by 108, and weight of copper has given to you. So 3.2 by weight of silver is equal to 32 by 108. If you simplify, weight of silver comes out to be 10.8 grams. See, except this, there are not much other ways of asking questions in second law of electrolysis, Faraday's second law of electrolysis. So it's a simple problem from Faraday's second law of electrolysis. Let's move on to the last question, that is 12th one. Okay. If you move on to question number 12, three aqueous solutions, those of zinc sulfate, silver nitrate, copper sulfate, are connected in series, and across them same electricity is passed, and the current passed was 1.5 amperes. For how much ever time, which we need to find out, he is saying. Weight of silver deposited was 1.45 grams. Then how much copper and how much zinc will be deposited, and for these quantities to be deposited, this much of silver and how much ever copper and zinc we are going to get now, for these quantities to be deposited, how much time does it take? Now you see, to find out time is Faraday's first law, whereas to find out weights of copper and weights of zinc, because he has already given weight of silver, is Faraday's second law. First let us do this, then we will go to calculation of time by taking any one of these three quantities. Okay. Now, as I have already explained you, copper equivalent weight is going to be 32. So, apply the same formula. Weight of copper by weight of silver is equal to 32 by 108. So, you need weight of copper. So, weight of copper is equal to 32 by 108 into 1.45. That will give you weight of copper. Similarly, when it comes to zinc, in zinc sulfate, zinc exists as Zn2 plus, gains 2 electrons to become zinc. So obviously, the valency of zinc is 2. Now, the atomic mass of zinc is 65.3, which I can just take it as 65. So, equivalent mass of zinc will be 65 by 2, that is 32.5. It's almost same as copper. So, weight of zinc by weight of silver is equal to 32.5 by 108. Therefore, weight of zinc is equal to 32.5 by 108 into 1.45. That's how you get weight of zinc. So, using Faraday's second law, weight of copper and weight of zinc can be found out like this. Now to find out time, you need to know charge. You know very well 108 grams of silver deposited by 96,500 coulombs. 108 grams of silver is deposited by 96,500 coulombs. Therefore, 1.45 grams by how much? You will get 96,500 by 108 into 1.45. Whatever the coulombs you get is the total charge required to deposit so much. Therefore, Q, charge is equal to I into T, T is equal to Q by I. So divide the current 1.5 amperes, divide this charge you get by current 1.5 amperes to get the time in seconds. That is how Faraday's laws of electrolysis numericals are given to you. So you have noticed that you had problems based on charge given, quantity of electricity asked, or quantity of charge given, quantity of substance asked, or quantity or amount of substance is given, charge required is asked, or current and time are given and amount of substance deposited is asked, or amount of substance and current are given, time required is asked. And you had a little different kinds of problems where regarding electroplating, the dimensions of the metal to be plated is given and the charge required is asked. And then last, very important previous question where the valency of the cation or the charge on the cation was asked. So in this exercise we have covered almost all the possible models of Faraday's laws. Repeat this exercise once, solve this exercise along with me, and then solve the home exercise that you have, in which most of these models will be repeated. You will get fullest confidence required to solve Faraday's questions based on Faraday's laws of electrolysis. Okay. Now from Faraday's laws of electrolysis or our analysis of quantitative aspects of electrolysis, we have understood what quantity of substance is deposited or liberated by passing what amount of electricity, right? But that is theoretically true. Means that is ideal. Whatever we study on paper will be generally ideal, and when it comes to practical circumstances, things do change. Similarly here also, there is no guarantee that electrolysis occurs perfectly ideal or 100% correct. There might be some problems. Problem number one, some unwanted reactions might hinder the cell reaction. Because of these unwanted reactions, heat may be produced, or because of these unwanted reactions, some unwanted byproducts may be produced, and this will consume a part of electricity. Means the electricity which was supposed to help in conduct of our electrode reactions, cathode, reduction at cathode and oxidation at anode, that electricity is being misconsumed for production of heat during this reaction or production of unwanted products during this reaction. Number two, you expected the products at cathode and anode to be formed like this, and this electricity is consumed for that purpose, and you expect some end product, end result. But what happens? The formed products might undergo recombination. As a result, you don't get the expected product finally. At the same time, you end up producing, you end up getting less quantity than you expect, but electricity is being consumed completely. That is another thing. Then number three, there could be loss of electrons, or I can say leakage of electrons through membrane. So what is happening? The electricity is being supplied, electrons are being supplied, but all of them are not being put into use. Because of all these aspects, what you expect from Faraday, I supplied 1 Faraday of electricity and I expect equivalent mass of substance to be deposited. That is expected from Faraday's law. But because of these problems, the entire amount of electricity I am passing is really used for electrode reactions, there is no problem. Because it is not happening, some of the electricity is being wasted, so you don't get quantity of products as expected from Faraday's law. Such loss of electricity for these factors is called Faraday laws. Leaving aside the Faraday laws, how much of current is really utilized is called current efficiency. So now current efficiency can be defined two ways, from the perspective of current used or from the perspective of substance formed. From the perspective of current, see, I am passing more but it is utilizing less. For percentage, always smaller divided by larger into 100, right? Now, I actual, that is the current that is really being used for electrode reactions, and I experimental, that is the total amount of current that I have passed. So the real amount of current that is being utilized divided by the total amount of current I have supplied into 100 tells you current efficiency. In terms of product formation, if really this entire electricity you have passed is being used, you expect so much of product to be formed. But because some of it is being dissipated, only so much of it is formed. So always observed yield, the amount of product observed will be less than the amount of product expected. So you can say observed yield of the product divided by theoretical yield, or I can say expected yield that is calculated from Faraday's law into 100 gives you current efficiency. So when current efficiency is 100%, product formation, quantity of product formed will be exactly according to Faraday's law. Whereas when current efficiency is less than 100%, then the product formation also will be less than what is expected from Faraday's laws. To understand how the problems might be asked in Faraday's laws, let us solve two examples. Okay. Now, take down this problem into your notes, try and solve it yourself, and then listen to my solution. See, the problem is, they have mentioned it is aqueous copper sulfate solution. They have mentioned how much current is passed. Yes. And they have mentioned how long it was passed. So, current as well as time duration is given. When you know current as well as time, and you already know it is copper, so you will know its equivalent mass also is 32. So, you know equivalent mass, you know current, you know time, so you can find the mass of the substance deposited. But still, he has given mass of the substance deposited. What does it mean? The amount of substance deposited might be not as expected from the theory, as expected from the Faraday's laws. So when he is giving even the amount of substance deposited while giving all other parameters, that means he is talking about less efficient process automatically. Now what do? We find out the quantity to be produced as per Faraday's law, and that will be more than this 16 grams, obviously. Now take the ratio and get the current efficiency. So he is asking you current efficiency. Let us calculate that. So the charge will be 5 amperes into 8 hours means 8 into 60 into 60, so many coulombs. Okay. Now you know very well 96,500 coulombs would deposit 32 grams of copper, because that is the equivalent mass of copper, 64 by 2. Valency of copper in copper sulfate is 2. Therefore, 5 into 8 into 60 into 60 coulombs would deposit how much? 32 by 96,500 into 5 into 8 into 60 into 60. Simplify this, you will end up getting 48 grams. Now you see, the product yield expected from Faraday's law is 48 grams. But the original yield that these guys have got is 16 grams. That means less than what is expected. So therefore, current efficiency is equal to the actual yield, the observed yield, divided by the theoretical yield, the yield that is expected from Faraday's law, into 100. So 16 will divide this one 3 times, 100 divided by 3 will give you 33.3%. So current efficiency of this particular process is 33.3%. Understood? So that is how problems on current efficiency are asked. So in this case, quantity is given apart from the electricity passed and current efficiency asked. It could be the vice versa. Current efficiency will be given and the original quantity that is really obtained will be asked. Let us check one such problem. Now, look at this problem. How many liters of hydrogen gas at STP will be produced when 2 Faraday of electricity is passed through acetylated water if the current efficiency is just 50%? So here he has given you the current efficiency and he has given you the quantity of electricity passed. You need to find out the actual yield. We will first find out the theoretical yield, then we will find out the actual yield. Okay. Now you know very well 1 Faraday of electricity liberates 11.2 liters of H2 at STP. If you don't remember, you can go through the previous session, because the equivalent mass of hydrogen is 1. Now you know very well at STP 2 grams of hydrogen occupies 22.4 liters. Therefore, obviously 1 gram of hydrogen occupies 11.2 liters. And you know very well 1 Faraday produces 1 gram, that is equivalent mass. So 11.2 liters will be equivalent volume of hydrogen gas at STP. So 1 Faraday liberates 11.2 liters. Therefore, 2 Faraday must liberate 22.4 liters. This is the theoretical yield. So this is the expected. Now, you know very well current efficiency is equal to actual by theoretical yield into 100. Now he has told you the current efficiency is just 50%. Now theoretical yield you got 22.4. See, we can just tell now. 22.4 liters was expected, but if the efficiency is just 50%, it will be 11.2 liters. But I'll just put it into a form of equation. So 50 is equal to actual yield divided by 22.4 liters, that was expected yield, into 100. Therefore, actual yield will be 50 into 22.4 by 100, that will give you 11.2 liters. So if it were 100% efficient, it would have produced 22.4 liters. Because it is just 50% efficient, it has produced 11.2 liters. That is the concept of Faraday laws and current efficiency. Okay. Once you understood concept of Faraday laws and current efficiency, there is no other troublesome problem in any entrance for that matter or board exam you can get from the concept of Faraday's laws of electricity. So solve that home exercise. Try to get some more examples for current efficiency and Faraday laws from any entrance books that you have with you, and then practice them to get more confidence, because one of the very important concepts Faraday's laws, and you will surely have 1 or 2 questions. Okay, all the best. Next session we'll wind up this chapter by discussing applications of electrochemistry. Thank you.